Good afternoon. We welcome you to today's broadcast that is being brought to you live at Uganda Diaspora EU Broadcasting Service. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our second episode of the Human Rights Violations series that we started last month. The purpose of this program, ladies and gentlemen, is to speak to the EU, in particular to speak to the institutions of the European Council, the European Commission, the European Parliament, but above all, to speak to the citizens of the EU. These are the taxpayers whose money is being used to fund the regime that continues to violate human rights on a very big scale. And our argument, and our message to the EU is stop funding dictator Museveni, because what the funding does is, one, it legitimizes the dictatorship, it legitimizes and whitewashes the leadership. Secondly, it undermines our efforts to it undermines our efforts to liberate ourselves. Thirdly, it just perpetuates the oppression and suffering of Ugandans. So our message to the EU is stop funding the dictator. What your funding does is it has emboldened the dictator just to go on killing, to go on abducting, torturing, and killing Ugandans, because no one has spoken truth to him. So it is time the EU stopped funding Museveni. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, Uganda has many governance issues that we could speak about, but I think we are systematically going to address these issues, and we've chosen to start with the human rights. In particular, we talk about the abductions. In our first episode, we spoke about the abducted 18. Today, we want to narrow it down to, again, we're going to talk about abductions, but we are going to talk about three main subjects or persons. That is His Royal Highness, the King of Buganda, Ronald Mutebi, and one of the National Unity Platform critics, bloggers, and activists by the name of FAUSTINE MASABA. And the third one, who was recently abducted, is also a National Unity Platform activist, foot soldier to use the technical word. He was abducted, and up to date, we don't know his whereabouts. So today we want, first of all, to condemn these acts of abduction that are being perpetrated by the regime of dictator Museveni. We condemn in very unequivocal terms, and we call for the immediate release of all these people. Ladies and gentlemen, the subject around the monarch or the monarchy as an institution, or the subject around His Royal Highness Kabaka Ronald Muwenda Mutebi, is always sensitive, is always sensitive, but very, very important. I would therefore wish to make a disclaimer that the views that we are going to express about the Kabaka, about the institution of Buganda, are our own views. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the National Unity Platform. However, as concerned individuals, and as concerned subjects of the Kabaka, we feel we have to, when there are concerns about his health, about his whereabouts, we have legitimate grounds to speak on this subject, and therefore we are there. There've been there've been there've been messages in the public domain about the health of the Kabaka, about the whereabouts of the Kabaka, and this is causing a lot of it is causing a lot of emotions. We therefore call upon OHT Peter Maiga to come out and pronounce himself on this subject. We want him to speak and tell us about the whereabouts of the Kabaka. The people are very concerned, but we know that they're not, many are being even threatened to express their concern. My colleague, Robert Kitunzi, is going to speak a little more about this subject. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce our panelists of the day. They are going to introduce themselves, and let's start with Comrade Solomon Nabuyanda. Please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, for this wonderful initiative. The leadership of the National Unity Platform in the diaspora, specifically the European Union, Mr. Chitunzi, and everyone that is behind this initiative, because it is important to promote and create constructive conversations around the development of our country during the liberation struggle and the aftermath of the liberation struggle. My name is John Solomon Nabuyanda. I'm a human rights defender and an environmentalist. I am a victim of torture. I am a victim of regime brutality. I am, of course, an active critique of the current illegitimate government in power in Uganda. And I am currently exiled here in Germany under the international protection of the federal state of Germany. Thank you so much, Joe. I am happy to join with you in this very constructive conversation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Solomon Nabuyanda. Please, can Comrade Robert Kitunzi introduce himself? Thank you.
Hey, good morning, good evening, all our viewers, wherever you are. The names are Robert Kitunzi. I reside in Sweden. I'm a Uganda and a subject to the Royal Highness Ronald Muwenda Mutebi, who is our king. We'll be talking about much about him. I'm currently the European leader. As recent as last year, I joined this struggle because I felt it is upon me, and as a Ugandan residing diaspora, to propagate and campaign for a democratic state of Uganda after going through a period which we would say is more dictatorial than what we anticipated of General Museveni. So I'll be listening to your views, and I'll be sharing my views as to our abducted brothers, and of course the situation surrounding the whereabouts of our king. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Robert Kitunzi. Yes, finally over to you, Comrade Mugisha. Please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Okay, I thank you very much, the viewers. By names of Mugisha Hafidhu, and I am serving as the NUP Vice Chairperson for Europe. And I'm a Munyankole by tribe, but Ugandan at heart, because me, I call myself I belong to every tribe in Uganda. I belong to the north, I belong to the west, I belong to the east, I belong in the central, because my parents different tribes, and me myself, I see myself as a Ugandan, because if Uganda is at peace, if Central is at peace, Uganda is at peace. If Uganda Kingdom is at peace, Uganda is at peace. If the West is at peace, Uganda is at peace. If the North is at peace, Uganda is at peace. So my views are all about having a peaceful country where human rights are realized and everything moves in the right direction of the wind. Because if you want the country to develop, we must have, human rights realization and human rights respect in each and that I can speak about. I'm very happy to be on the same platform with you, Mr. Joe, and my brother Chitunzi, and my other brother Nabuyanda. I thank you very much for the work that you have been doing back on ground. Me too, I'm a victim of torture. I'm a victim of the regime brutality, and since 2017. So for us, we are veterans in that. But we are still strong and standing, and we still believe that our country will be on the right path, where every person has a right to speak, even if it concerns a leader, a cultural leader, a religious leader, where everyone has a right to speak. Because right now we see in the UK, King Charles is sick, but when you go on all the tabloids, they are asking, where is our king? They are commenting about the king. They are commenting about his health, commenting about his whereabouts. But when we go back in our country, Uganda, if you comment about the health of the king, it is treason. So it's absurd, but for God and my country, we shall one time overcome and reach to the promised land. I thank you very much. And I wish you a good, deliberate show today. I thank you. Back to you, Comrade Joe.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introductions, comrades. Yes, today the format of this panel discussion is really, first of all, to articulate the issues at hand, and particularly the topic is Museveni and the regime must stop the abductions, must stop the tortures, must stop the killings of Ugandans. And as I said in our introduction, we're going to focus on the three main victims. Ladies and gentlemen, recent reports, in particular, the U.S. State Department country report for 2023, as well as the Amnesty International, also the Human Rights Watch, they've reported a surge an upsurge in the abductions, in the tortures, and in the killings of Ugandans. And this is, of course, witnessed by reports about our own people that we know. So this is really what we want to delve into and try to see what is happening. However, I think before we get there, as I said in our introduction, we really want to touch on the subject of the Buganda Kabakaship or monarchy as an institution. We want to speak a little bit about His Royal Highness, Ronald, His Excellence, His Royal Highness Ronald Muwenda Mutebi. Let me invite my my brother Kitunzi to give us to say more about that subject. Thank you.
Thanks to Joe again for the introduction. So I think everyone who's been following this space on social media since the whole of last week could not have failed to see the outcry of the Ugandan populace as the whereabouts of the king or the Kabaka of Buganda. I'm a Uganda, and I first was a Buganda subject before, by default, I became to be a Ugandan. There are people who are saying that if you look at the space, whether on Twitter or in our inbox in the WhatsApp groups we're in, there's a lot of um, um, messaging going out as to why we should or should not talk about the issue of the Kavaka. For those who are Baganda, Buganda is an old institution. It's pretty much as old as some of the monarchies here in Europe. It was said, and it has institutions which really should run well. Yeah, and there are norms we have to follow as Baganda. I'm not an expert of the institution, and I'm not, as a disclaimer, a I'm not talking on behalf of the kingdom. I'm talking as a subject, as a subject of the Buganda kingdom. If you go through the national anthem of Buganda, it gives us, as the Baganda, a role to play when we see injustice, or where we see that there's a disintegration of abuse of our kingdom. So for someone to come out saying that, who are you to talk about Buganda, then that's someone, he either is not a Muganda or probably doesn't know the background and the history of how the Buganda kingdom was built. It was built by the subjects, and it was expanded to be what it was before the British by the Baganda. So it is our right, when we see things which are not right, to come out to question. Yeah. Now let's go to the institution. I was mention a few institutions which everyone is pretty much, or probably roles, which need to be in place, or we should probably address these things. In Buganda, we have the Katikkiro, who is pretty much a representation of our subjects, eh, um, as subjects on behalf of the Kabaka. Yeah. And then in a situation where, in all situations, all the institutions have a PR. There's someone who talks about the Buganda kingdom or the monarchy, even if it is in Sweden or in England or the Dutch or the Dennis Royce. They always have a procedure of going out to the public to disseminate some information when need be. For instance, if the royal family is having some problems, or in this case, we are talking about the Kabaka being in ill health and his whereabouts are not known. So there's what they call Kasujulubinga. This is the subject by the institution of Buganda, who is supposedly to talk about the health of the king if he has problems with the house. God knows why this gentleman is not playing his role. So that aside, then there has to be a PR person who probably would be the outside, together with the particular, talking about whatever is going on within the kingdom. So it is really disconcerting for us as Baganda. 1 week down the line, with all the outcries, the Baganda, the people are making, that none has come out to talk about this. The only reaction we're getting from the public is that we shouldn't be talking about that. So if me as a Muganda cannot talk about the whereabouts or the problems within the kingdom, who is going to be talking about that? I'll put that question to yourself. Now, the other disturbing issue for me as someone who's living in the diaspora are a couple of things. And I'm going to share this with you. Yeah. Give me a second. I need to present this with you guys. Give me a second. Comrades, what do you see on the screen?
I was actually seeing Nabanja and sort of an outline, but it's now off.
Okay, let me see. Give me a second. What are you seeing now? Comrades, what are you seeing now? Hello?
We are seeing
You're still at the. I'm seeing two things, two posters, but they are not yet clear.
Okay. Let me just give me a second. Let me try to. Is one of the posters coming out? Give me a second. You'll bear with me. There's something which is.
I think it's okay. We still have the time.
Yeah. So there's one thing I really need to share to the public, which is disturbing for us in Europe, which is important to get out. Comrades, bear with me. I'm trying to sell these things where they need to be. Uh, so comrades, I'm sorry the slide is not coming up. Let me see if I can get it here via here. No, sorry guys. So let's do like this. Let's forget about the file. The file I was trying to share with you, actually the two files, yeah? And one of the files reads like this. While we are making an outcry for the whereabouts, do you hear me okay?
But can you let Joe back into the broadcast?
Okay.
Because he's
Okay. Sorry guys. Sorry guys.
Thank you, comrade.
Are we back together?
Yes,
So,
let's proceed.
our dear public, my apologies for you guys. What I was trying to share with you are a couple of things. Yeah. One of the things which is circulating in Europe is about the upcoming convention in Europe to do with an event which is being fronted by the Buganda Kingdom. Yeah. So this is disturbing, and I will tell you why. It reads like this. The offices of Kabaka's representatives in the UK and Ireland, Rhineland, and Scandinavia bring to you the first Buganda Convention in Europe. Venue, Cavern Banqueting Suite, 293 Forward Road, Edmonton, London, N90PD. More details will follow. This event is supposed to take place between the 13th and the 15th of September 2024. That is one event coming up in Europe. The other interesting event which took place recently is actually, it was yesterday. It was a cultural awareness program. Yeah, I think the program was headed Euroforum UG. Yeah, I was not able to follow the event because of other commitments, but I did follow up post event and listened in to the people who were really conducting this program. So, what was this program about? Yeah, this was a culture program which was addressing how do we uh, integrate our kids not only within the European culture, but how about integrating them in our cultures? Most of the people were running this program were Uganda, so they were trying to see how they can integrate their kids born here into the Buganda culture, the challenges they're meeting, etc. Yeah. So these are Buganda activities going on in Europe. Yeah. And one would think, or one would argue, if their activities being fronted to promote Buganda, it would by default, in all cases, and I'll put it out to you guys there, if these activities are ongoing and there's a question mark as to the whereabouts of the king, who is the epitome of Buganda, how would you live by yourself and tolerate these activities to be ongoing without addressing the burning questions on social media, however illegitimate they may be? I think it would be in order for anyone in Mango, whoever is supposedly the representation of Kabaka, to come out and discredit the ongoing concerns from us, the diasporans, not only us, the diasporans, but even the Ugandans who are there, because it's not we in Europe who are yearning for the whereabouts of the Kabaka, but the entire Ugandan community, whether you're in Uganda or not. So the other thing which is really concerning for us, or which is really concerning for me as an individual, and I'll have to let you in on something which is really maybe private and personal. Being of the Inchima clan, I'm part of a group of those in the Inchima clan. Yeah, for those who are not, who don't know a clan, list international viewers, Buganda has clans which all the subjects belong to. Yeah, so when this really was taking place, some of us we're communicating in our group saying, okay, I think it is in order that the particular comes out to 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 talk about this thing. And what is really concerning is that the reactions we're getting from a lot of people who we think we share the same views about Buganda and how we should be proud to be Baganda or the clan members of Buganda. And it becomes a little bit intimidational approach from some of the members, to the extent that some people become abusive when you're talking about this, when you're talking about the whereabouts of Kabaka. I find it disturbing for someone to ask you something and then you become very abusive. Yeah. Which was a little bit, which raises some questions. And then the climax of this interaction, one member went out of the group who is not a friend of mine or in my contact list. He came into my inbox and And I'm going to read these things he communicated to me, and I'll put it out to you to make out what the interactions and his communication in my inbox. Yeah, I'll read it in Luganda for you guys who are Uganda and those who at least know Luganda. And this really, let me see, give me a second. Yeah, someone starts by this. Listen up, guys. Mukulu otyano tetumanyiganye naye ekituufu ku nsonga z'omutanda, full stop. Then he continues on to say, kituufu yagenda ebweru okujjanjabwa e Germany. Tebaazuula kimuluma n'avaayo n'adda e Bungereza. Naye nabo balemeddwa okuzuula ekimuluma. He continues on to say, abamanyi eby'omunda bagamba nti alina ensonga z'alina okukola naye yagaana. He continues on to say, ebyembi embeera yeeyongera kwonooneka. Eyabalina ebigendererwa byabwe baagala kumulangira nti yagwa eddalu. So what did I react? This is how I reacted. I addressed him like, Sebo, waliwo kye bayita protocol. Sisobola kugendera ku by'owandiika wano. Ensi kyeyagala kitono. Katikkiro aveeyo abuulire eggwanga Kabaka gy'ali. So si bantu kutambuza message mu inbox z'abantu. Oba mwagala tutegeka mwerimbye. I ended that. So how did he respond to me? He responded to me by saying, nsaba kunsonyiwa nnyo ssebo, naye njagadde kubuulira bye mmanyi oba oliawo kituyambe okuyiiya ekiddako. Ssebo, nyiwa nnyo kukutegeeza ebitalina makulu. Ssebo, nyiwa nnyo okutegeeza. I didn't understand that, you know. So my last comment to this gentleman was, biswaza Obuganda nti ensonga z'omutanda za kukwekerezako n'okuyisa mu nkukutu. Sebo eno emboozi tugikomye wano. That was my end. So I want you to reflect on this conversation, which happened to be privy between me and someone I don't know, who is reacting on my advocating for the whereabouts. And I think this is not I think this is ongoing. So let's leave this to the public to judge. And as we said, it was not our intention to address the issue of the Kabaka, but as concerned citizens and subjects to the Kabaka, when we see something which is going on, which is not right, of course we are going to come out. Yeah, we've seen a lot of inconsistencies which would raise questions for any human being. We are all enlightened, so we don't want us to be taken as fools. The Prime Minister of Katikkiro Kabaka, Katikkiro Mayega, leading up to the a marathon run, came out a few days that the Kabaka was ill and he was attending to medical his medical issues, which is fine. That is what he's supposed to tell us. And he went on a few days after to tell us he will not be able to come to the birthday rites. And we take that at heart. He's communicating. Yeah. Those are important things to highlight. So when we question that, if he could come out and talk about all these issues, what is motivating him to talk about this issue when there's so many voices out there, however illegitimate they are? What is holding him back? What is he holding him back? What is where the secrets? So he cannot choose and pick when to come out. Yet this is a very national or a very big issue for a big cultural leader. I think, truth to be told, he needs to be very consistent in his way of communicating to the subjects of Uganda. He took upon the role of being the Katikito. He took upon the role of being the person who is talking about the Kabaka's health, yet we have someone who should be talking about that. He's the PR of Uganda. So I put it out to you there. Is Katikiro doing a good job? Your case is as good as mine. So I want us to end this conversation about the Kabaka and we leave it to the public, and time will judge us as to whether we're in the wrong here. I beg to submit, Joe, and I think we can proceed on to our program of advocating for the missing Ugandans, especially the two recent abductions of FAUSTINE MASABA and HUSSEIN MUMBYE. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Comrade Robert, for that enlightenment, and thank you very much for addressing issues pertaining to the monarchy or to the Buganda institution. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Today we really would like to interface with the public. So I've put out our number, but apparently it's not visible. I'll read this number to you. It is +46793102278. The idea is to really engage, to engage the public, and this is because we want to mobilize public opinion about the issues that we are discussing, but above all, to bring pressure to bear on the regime to release the abductees, because these people have a freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. All these rights are enshrined in the Constitution. No one should be abducted or arrested or penalized for belonging to opposition. They are merely exercising their rights. So without further ado, let's move to our first question. Comrade Solomon, I see. Solomon, I hope you. Robert, please mute. Solomon, great. The screen had gone a bit blank. I was a bit afraid that you might have dropped off. Thank you very much, Solomon. Yes, Solomon, you are an activist. You are also a victim, but we know you are also a lawyer. So this makes you a very interesting panelist. So going, as our reports indicated, there is an upsurge in the abductions, in the tortures, in the killings. So Solomon, describe a typical scenario of an abduction to give us a sense of violence meted on the victims when they are abducted or arrested, whichever. What exactly happens when they are you? Are you not hearing me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Robert, are you hearing me?
George, Chairman, I wanted to ask you, there's a gentleman in the waiting room. I don't know you know him. Should I add him, Boji
No,
Kudrat?
no, no. I've tried to block this person. I don't know how this person has infiltrated, actually. But to block, we all need to consent. There is Bogi Gudrate.
Bodi Kudra works with, I think, he's a lawyer and he works with a civil society in Uganda. But he was asking for a link because he went on JB
Okay. So it is a glitch. It's a technical glitch. All right. Okay. Because I was concerned. I've been really expelling him every minute. I think if he's listening from there, I think it's okay. Robert, yeah, he's a lawyer.
Proceed.
Yeah,
I mean, if he's listening, it's okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was equally concerned. But since you've validated who he is, I think that's okay. So, Comrade, I was asking Comrade Solomon, what happens in the dungeons when somebody has been, when you've been abducted and you've been, whisked to those horrible areas? So, who are the perpetrators of this violence? What exactly? Give us a sense of what happens when somebody's abducted, when somebody's inside there all by himself, facing all this torture, horrible tortures, and what kind of tortures happen. Over to you, Comrade Solomon. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, and everybody that has organized this. And once again, I'm so happy to be invited here to always speak and share with you. I've been tasked to have 3 points to speak to. The first one, what amounts to an abduction? Before I speak to this point of what amounts to an abduction, I want to point at 3 basic international instruments. The first one is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The third one is the ICCPR that establishes or that protects the rights of politicians or political rights or civil rights. And the third one that I want to talk about is the International Treaty Against the Torture of All Humans and Inhuman Degrading Treatment. All these international treaties have been zeroed down and structured or drafted or included into our national constitution of the Republic of Uganda, which specifically establishes the right to be protected from torture, inhuman and degrading treatment. Why do I set this as the basis of my discussion or presentation this specific afternoon? I want to first and foremost also point at Article 23 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Article 23 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda establishes the procedure through which or establishes the principle of criminal procedure. If Joe, I have wronged or I am against the law or I have any complaint against me, this simply means that the officer in power or the police officer, who we call in our local dialect Afande, should come to me with an arrest warrant in uniform, and present reasons as to why I am being arrested or I am being taken to the police station to make investigations, or rather answer a few questions. It's absurd today that we are talking about the Kabaka. My senior brother or senior comrade Chitunzi has just talked about what is happening with the Kabaka. And it's also absurd that this information is not yet public, and the key institutions like Buganda Kingdom is still silent about this issue. And the politicians that have the audience, the clout, are also silent about this issue. It's only a few voices that are actually saying that the Kabaka was kidnapped. Yesterday I was talking to Dr. Stella Nyanzi in the afternoon, and I was telling her, hey Stella, Uchimani Kabaka Baamukute, and she's like, hey, Kabaka, I'm seeing on Twitter Kabaka. Ne Kabaka Yabaddechi.
That's one of the scenario that I'm talking about. It's absurd that men in layer can walk into the airport, violate all the regulations that have been set or put in place, and arrest the Kabaka of Uganda, unanswerable to anybody. The second point the second case in point that I want to refer to is the case of His Excellency Kyagulanyi Robert Sentamu, the 10th President of the Republic of Uganda. And why am I referring to his case, or which case specifically am I referring to him? Look at 2021 during the nominations. Men in layer abduct him, drive him from Chambogo straight to Magere. As if that was not enough, in 2026, rather in 2024, which we are in, as the president is returning to the country, men in layer abduct or take the president with no arrest warrant, not in layer, no identification that identifies them as security operatives, and they deport him to Magere, his home. And the justification is not actually claimed, the justification does not exist. Under what provision of the law, under what premise of the law are they taking this action? Third point in case I want to use, how does an abduction look like? Look at Kakwenza. Kakwenza tweets. He nags the so-called General Muhoozi Kainerugaba. And when Kainerugaba is annoyed, he does not look at what premise of the law he can act within, what precept of the law can he act within. He had two options, either to walk into a police station, make a complaint, and the police investigates the matter, issues an arrest warrant for Kakwenza Rukirabashaiza, or rather go to court and institute a defamatory suit against Kakwenza Rukirabashaiza. But he decided to use excessive power. What do we call excessive power? They walk into Chisasi, break into the house of Kakwenza Rukirabashaiza, men in layer, in unauthorized number plates with no identification, pick out Kakwenza Rukirabashaiza. And these are all cases we are talking about. Look at MASABA. Recently, the man from northern Uganda, the NUP mobilizer, I think, from one of the districts in northern Uganda, was kidnapped. After 2 months, we are seeing him being arraigned before the General Court Martial. So this is what I term or describe as an abduction. An abduction is an illegal act that is not justified by any precept of the law, or that is not provided for by any provision of the law. Away from the abduction, after you have been kidnapped, after you have been abducted, after you've been taken, if anybody arrests you without an arrest warrant, without justification for their act of arresting you, without answerable or authoritative permission to arrest you, they have abducted you, most especially if they are not in uniform. Secondly, what happens after abduction is what we call torture. Torture is the act where excessive, illegal, inhuman force is used or is meted onto a human being. We all looked at the back of Kakwenza Rukirabashaiza, who is a renowned Ugandan activist who was taken into dungeons of the prison, rather dungeons of what we call safe houses today. For me, I am so disappointed that even our parliament today can accept and receive a report from the Human Rights Committee of Parliament when they were refused to inspect, to investigate, to visit, to do a survey or a scout visit to these what we call safe houses. The torture happens in safe houses. Excessive, inhuman, illegal force that is meted onto human beings by security operatives is what we describe as torture, which is illegal not only against the Constitutional Republic of Uganda, but also against the ICCPR, also against the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, because it degrades your human dignity, and also against the International Convention against torture of all human beings. And what happens in safe houses? You told me to talk about it. Well, you see, when you're taken into a safe house, I remember in 2020 when we were taken from a police brutality protest, we were instructed, we were beaten on the ankles and the knees. They said, this is where you get your energy. So they beat our ankles with batons. I don't know how to best describe that for the community that is listening in to us here. But after that, our ankles were beaten. After being beaten, we were, for lack of a better word, denied health attention. We were denied visits from our family members or our lawyers. And I remember because of the excessive force that was used against me, I lost it and I had to be hospitalized on life support system because it was too much. It was too much for me. So what happens in the torture dungeons is torture. They kill, they beat, they degrade, they abuse the dignity of all human beings. And what is important for me here, or to talk here, is not about the acts of the government of the regime of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. I heard Joe earlier on when we were starting, Joe saying that Museveni has to stop. I want to disappoint you, Joe, and everyone that is listening into this call, that Museveni is not here to stop abductions. Museveni is not here to stop torturing Ugandans. His interest is in torturing Ugandans. We have beautiful laws. We've ratified international treaties that protect me as a dissenting voice, as a critique, as an opponent of the sitting regime in power. But these laws are not realistic. These laws are not enforced. We have gone as far as the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda legislating and providing for what is called for an act against the torture and inhuman degrading treatment of Ugandans. But all these laws are not put into practice because the implementation is abuse of power and abuse of office. If you annoy Anita Among, or if you annoy the Speaker of Parliament, the Speaker of Parliament is specifically going to pick interest in you, and she will order security to pick you up and torture you. So that is the interest of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. So what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is the interest, it is not Museveni to stop torturing and degrading the humanity of Ugandans as I'm speaking. It's about you, the international community, lobbying, putting so much pressure insofar as sanctions, both travel and economic bans on Uganda as a country, to feel the pressure so that they can, for lack of a better word, fail to implement the governance system. Secondly, what happens, the governance system or policy framework or whatever they believe in. The second thing that we have to do is to mobilize, invest in grassroots mobilization in Uganda for a popular mass uprising. This is what is going to force Museveni to stop torturing, abducting the Kabaka, MASABA, and so many other Ugandans that I cannot take off my fingertips today. So it is not Museveni to stop torturing Ugandans. It is Ugandans to push Museveni to stop torturing Ugandans. Well, Joe, I am not the speaker of the day, but I'm so happy to engage, and I am still here to answer my next session question. Back to you, Joe, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, comrade, for that insight. Yes, very, very detailed and very, very chilling, so to say. Indeed, you're right. The component of our people on the ground, being involved is very, very important if we have to remove the dictator. And yes, I think the final bit was, who are the perpetrators of this violence? Maybe you'll come back a bit later with that bit just to complete that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so this is the situation. How do abductions of NUP or opposition supporters impact the citizens' trust in government and the rule of law? This is definitely yeah, given what happens, people cannot have faith in these institutions. Comrade Robert, are you able to address that question, please? Thank you.
Yes, as good I can of to my best knowledge, so to speak. But I think it's pretty much very straightforward. I think the main word here is trust. Yeah. When you experience such ongoing atrocities or brutal, uh, brutal activities from the regime, which is supposedly to um, to enforce peace and law and order in the society, what happens is that the populace rebel because once again they don't have trust in the system. Yeah, so there's a loss of there's going to be a big divide between the people who are being governed or to be protected and the people who are supposed to be uh, running the government. So there's going to be a very big pushback, and this is reflective in how people nowadays react on government initiatives or programs. I'll give you case in mind is the recent um, um, vaccination initiatives. For some reason, it's so crazy that in the last 2 3 years, the government is pushing a lot of these programs, which in in a democratic and a civil society would be embraced as something really positive for the society. But I think everyone who is in Uganda can see that when they bring in the COVID, people are suspicious as whether it's legitimate. If it's a vaccination, there is this I think some vaccination thing which was directed to women and the cervical cancers or whatever, and then the recent one is the yellow fever. So the government finds itself in a dilemma that how are they going to implement and enforce these things if the society they're supposed to implement this is having a pushback? So that's the impact they get. Yeah? If you're going to be brutal, you're not going to, everything you're going to be doing is going to be met with suspicion, and you end up not succeeding in your programs. So, and this is going to continue on. There's some which may be in good faith, but when you are faced with such injustices and atrocities and whatever activities the government and these programs they're doing, you get a pushback from the society. So, yeah, and ultimately, when it comes, there is a threshold as to how much pain a person or the society can take. This is really, 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 really disturbing because I can see the country being plunged in total chaos. Total chaos means not only violent uprising or civil wars and stuff. Yeah, these are things which General Museveni fought against when he supposedly was deposing of Obote. But here we are, 40 years down the line, is probably committing the worst atrocities we've ever seen. We've seen atrocities when we're in our teens, but what we see now is very hard to stomach. So, but again, our only role as Ugandans, especially we who are in the diaspora, is try to create awareness. Not only, actually, our role is to create awareness to the institutions or the governments who are giving him the support. So, I think to summarize the impact of the abduction is that there's going to be some kind of pushback, and ultimately may boil over to having a very civil unrest in the country. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you very much, comrade. You're very right. I mean, the state has signed a social contract with the citizens, and where we see a breach, I mean, the state is supposed to protect and serve the citizens, not to abduct and torture. So clearly, there is a breach of contract here, which leads to people questioning the legitimacy of this state. If that is what it's doing, then there are issues around its legitimacy. And of course, people will begin rebelling against this rogue state, definitely. Thank you very much for that answer. Yes, Comrade Gisha Hafuze, what measures are civil society organizations taking to address the human rights violations and ensure the safety of opposition members and supporters? Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Comrade Joe. It's very hard that my last name causes issues. It's not only to you. You call me by my first name. It's a little bit a hard name. So the question is very clear. In any developing country, CSOs are one of the mechanisms that the country uses in terms of formulating policies, in terms of tackling different problems. Because in every country you go, you find CSOs, in even developed countries. But in Uganda, we are seeing that the CSOs right now have turned to be an enemy to the government, according to the narrative of the government, whereby they are moving forward, regulating how the CSOs get the money, how they use the money, and everything. You know, you may recall how before last time when a lot of organizations they were put on a blacklist. You know, this shows how dictatorship operates back in the country like Uganda. You know, for example, CSOs they reach to the grassroots. For example, right now, if we speak about the abduction and the families, you know, the Human Rights Commission, the first response or the first research it could go about, there would be CSOs that are dealing with human rights in specific communities in the country, because CSOs can also be called, can come from the community-based organization. We are talking about a system which operates without boundaries. Because sometimes when we go in the governance system, some people don't feel more at peace to discuss issues with the government, because some have hate to the government. But they feel easy to discuss with the CSO members because they believe they are going to get or to benefit a scholarship, they are going to benefit something from these organizations. So they give in and they spill all the beans and they speak to everything. But the government of Uganda have lied reluctant and have seen that they think that CSOs are an enemy to the government, the operation of government project, because the platform, groomed as fast as an organization. You know, you remember how the Balams came that we registered it under the NGO, because in their mentality, they thought it is an organization. And a lot of organizations, they embraced the wording of the National Unity Platform because of the values it stands for. So this created a bridge. This created the bridge between the government and the CSOs to be broken. And when it became broken, it means that the system is failed. It's totally a fail. If the CSO doesn't, work with the government directly, this CSO will be termed as non-patriotic, as something that is not good for the people. But when we go to the blueprint of CSOs operate without fear or favor. Even if it is the government, and the government is not doing well in the human rights side, the CSOs has a mandate to come out and speak that, the government is not delivering in this sector. This is how the framework of CSOs work. CSO works. That's why these organizations are called non-government organizations. They can never align with the government, but they work for the good of the communities. So when I go to the part where you ask me the measures the CSOs could do to see that everything moves in the right direction with the better human rights and on that same on the same page, a lot of CSOs they have mother organizations. For example, if I'm a small CSO in Uganda, I have a mother organization back home, or I may be my mother organization can be the Save the Children, can be the UNICEF, whereby I'm alienated to or which I work with. So it's me to collect the data from the grassroots. I can perform my task of getting the data, and then I publish this data to the people who are concerned, for example, to the UN, because you can't upload this data to the government of Uganda, because the government of Uganda has already created a valley between you, the CSO, and the communities. So it means that to bridge that, you just have to create this data and share it with big organizations like the United Nations, like the UNICEF, like the Save the Children, because some of these organizations are still in Uganda, leave alone the Human Rights Commission, which was, closed up by the dictator, But we still have some organizations that we can really strategize and get this information from these families of the abducted people, and then we link this information to these people. That is how the CSOs can do, because the CSOs can't do hands-on, especially in a country like Uganda. Because if they go there, they will be held liable, and they might face precaution, and they may be closed up because there are no laws that are working back in Uganda. Back to you, Comrade Joe.
Thank you very much for that answer, comrade. Again, you are right. The state again fails in its social contract by criminalizing civil society organizations, because civil society organizations really are the very important organs of a community that is thriving, that is fulfilling its duty as far as democracy is concerned. So criminalizing or banning it is again attacking the freedoms and the rights of Uganda. And so this is very, very wrong. And we condemn it, and we got to continue to fight for the freedoms. We must reclaim these freedoms and these rights of citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, I really think we've overrun our time, so we shall be winding up in the next 15 minutes. That is after our next round of questions, and then we see if there are any questions from the audience. I don't know if Solomon has dropped. Solomon, are you still there? I don't see you. Solomon, have you dropped? I don't see him.
I don't see him on the dashboard here.
He may have dropped. He may have dropped. Okay. Anyhow, we forge ahead. Yes. So really, again, talking about questions of reaction of what could be taken. Are there any specific actions? This is to you, Robert. Are there any specific actions being taken by international organizations or diplomatic missions in Uganda to address these concerns?
Interesting questions. If you're talking about Uganda, it's pretty much comes down to what we would term the opposition. I think the opposition in such a situation should be at the forefront to push back and advocate for certain changes, so that there's some kind of sanity in the observation of rule and law. But everyone here and whoever is in Uganda, they know what is going on. We've been seeing a disintegration of different parties. There's been yeah, we don't want to go into that, but in a multi-party dispensation, one would think that uh, we should have an opposition which is advocating to bring out sanity, but they're yet to. Um, I mean, it's really very disheartening that we're seeing a lot of pushback and um, bickering within the different opposition parties. FDC, you know what happened to it. Um, Noop so far is what has been more consistent, and of course that I'm happy to be aligned to the Noop because our president Robert Changuranyi, I think, has been very very consistent with his stand against removing General Museveni. Um, if we go back 3 years ago after the elections, there was a lot of public noise as to why he's going making trips to the to the West. What is he doing? And they were making, I mean, a fun of us who are advocating for change online, social media. You have loose comments on social media does not remove Museveni and all that stuff. But fast forward now, they I think we're seeing the fruits coming out of the initiative which were been done by or pioneered by our president. So on the ground, I think he's made it very clear. The party has done some countrywide sensitization. There was some kind of tours there. This is pretty much to bring the populace up to speed that you should know your rights. You should advocate for your rights. So I think there's much to do by the NOP party, but I'm not saying that NOP should be the only fighting force to advocate for, I wish Dr. Besije and the other people who are in the opposition should step up to the plate to give General Museveni a run for his money. Of course, he's intimidating them with both finance incentives and brutality, but
Robert, if you can just hold it. I really want you to speak a little bit more about international organizations or diplomatic.
Yes, I was getting there, but I mean,
Good.
let's move from the international, the local scene, which we
Yes,
don't
thank
have
you.
actually any kind of influence. That's the reason we're here. So for us here in Europe, or even in the US, as the people were in the the movement of change, we have physical demonstrations. This is one of the online demonstrations as well. And then we have the engagement we have with the different institutions here in Europe, engaging foreign ministries. These are, high-profile meetings which you will not see on social media, or we will not communicate, even if we could. We're dealing with a dictator. So demonstrations, we need to do a lot of demonstrations. They really work. I think we're really very slow right now. We need to step up with that. We recently had one in Switzerland. We intend to come up with a program for the end of the second half of the year to do a lot of these demonstration on the street. I think we should make Museveni very popular, and then we're going to be aggressive in such that every time we do demonstration, we need to have posters, you know, posters across the big cities in Europe. Every time we're going to be advocating for the release of the prisoners, if he doesn't really release them soon. And then, of course, more engagements and getting meetings. Our president is coming to the Democratic Summit in Copenhagen the coming month, next month. So we'll be talking and engaging the international community of where we are and where the country is. That is a very good meeting to be at. And yeah, so I think that's pretty much what we can do from our side. And then, of course, mobilize our Ugandan communities in the diaspora to shake off that kind of intimidation and fear, which is sponsored by the regime. For those who are still in fear, we're telling them, support us when we go out there, whether financially, to print out the posters or the flyers we're giving out to the European citizens. So those are the channels we're going to go. We're going to be on the street. We're going to go be in the boardrooms with these decision makers, and we're going to to advocate for change the best way we can. As for the Ugandan scene, the president and the local opposition, let's let them take that on board, and everyone will be happy. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Comrade Robert. A good, very, very good. You've delved into, that question, and I really think each one of us in the diaspora, we have a role to play, and we can do much more. Whether engaging your local representative, whether engaging your member, the European Member of Parliament, we can do a lot more. Even engaging your own community, the church where you live, the neighborhood, explaining what is going on. So this is very, very, very important in mobilizing public opinion, ladies and gentlemen. And this is ultimately what is going to shift goals. This is what is going to change the paradigm. So we can do a lot more. Well, let's not sit back and wait and expect the leaders to carry the mantle. No, we can all do so much by engaging on social media, tweeting and whatever you. But also when we have demonstrations, come out and join. The bigger the numbers, the greater the impact. So you can do much, much more. And if you're not able for some reason, yes, support the demonstrations, support the activities by way of financing and funding. You can do this. We are able to do this. This is the only way we are going to bring pressure to bear on these institutions to force Museveni to do the right thing. But we all have a role to play, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I'm going to a final question, which will go to Comrade Mugisha. Comrade Mugisha, how many individuals have been abducted, if we know, and what is their current status? Are there any efforts being made to locate and release them? Over to you. Thank you.
I thank you very much, Comrade Joe. If we speak about how many individuals have been abducted, as of now, for sure, if I can't give you the actual number, because even right now, as we speak, we may go off of this broadcast, and then I receive a message that someone has been abducted. That is the situation that we are in, especially right now in the period where election fever is at a high peak. But the ones that we know that are being accounted for and are really missing, held incommunicado, whereby we don't know where they are, these are over 18 people. We don't know where they are. We don't know anything about their lives, Their families say that the security operatives came and picked them up. the Chibalama and the colleagues. Nobody knows where they are. We saw the premier of the country come out, and it was even in the parliament. He was, inside the parliament, outside the August house, and she was like, "We have him. We got him." He said the name, and after, from the blue, he said, "We don't know where they are." We saw Mr. Balam. I'm sorry to state, because a person who is literate enough like me, you can't say that that can be my minister for gender and labor. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm not trying to demean anyone, but at least something has to be said the right way. He came out and asked for the list of these people who got abducted, and he promised we're going to bring them out. After he came back to the floor of parliament, they are not there. They never exist. We saw the president of the country come out on the TV, read a list of all the names, the people that they have. The names were in that list. And after, his proxies say we don't have them. We don't know where they are. Information from the prisons is being concealed. You saw the president, His Excellency Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu, not allowed to go to visit the prisoners in the prison because they are concealing a lot of information. But if I'm to tell you, no one is safe if you're against the dictator. No one is safe. For example, there is this organization, the National Front for Reconciliation. I believe it's the first time to listen about it. But the comrade in the way who is, I think he is tuning in and listening to us, the director to that organization. When I was in Uganda, we discussed a lot. He faced the same scenarios. He has been in threat just because of speaking about the president. His family is in dismay. His family doesn't know what will happen tomorrow. So when you're in Uganda, if you are against anything that is, tackling the leadership of this Mr. Museveni, I'm telling you, you're not safe. So long as you're a true opposition, so long as you speak the right thing the right way, so long as you're not compromised, you're not safe. A lot of questions are coming in. I want to add it up on this. Some people say, why isn't Bobby Wine also abducted and gets lost? Sometimes you have to use common sense in this 21st century that we are holding right now. A lot of things are happening whereby His Excellency Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu is the eye to the grove. If anything happens to him or someone who is so directly to him, automatically the dictator knows what may happen to him on the global stage. And that's why they have tackled to come into the diaspora. You see, these days they have funded a lot into the diaspora. You saw the letters, the stupid boy, I'm sorry to use such a word on the platform, there is this boy, he was in the Middle East and then came to Uganda, Calvin. He was like writing to the Premier of Canada. Of nonsense, writing something that doesn't even deserve to be called an article. Just go something and wrote, typed things to create something and threw it into the social media, causing frenzy. So it means that the government now knows the impact that is being mounted on them, because people are running out of the country because of the abduction, because of the problems that are happening. Because if I'm to say this, in the recently, my sister Kemi of the councillor of NUP in Kawempe, she was abducted, held incommunicado. After she was, they threw him on the gates of the main offices in Kavule. We are talking about comrade MASABA. We are talking about a lot of comrades. So apart from the 18 that are held in Comunicado. We know a lot of other comrades that are held in the military facilities. We know a lot of people from parts of the country, and this thing is going to amount more and more. Lastly, as I put to the peak of it, we saw the State of Department. It issued its human rights report. Blinken, the Secretary of State of the United States of America, put it so clear in crystal light pen about the people who have been missing in Uganda, about the extrajudicial killing, about the abductions, about a lot of things. If you can read at least 2 pages are dedicated to the of the National Unity Platform members, supporters, leaders, councillors. At least if you read 2 or 1.5 pages, and if a government like the United States of America can highlight such a statement, it means it is a big thing, because the United States of America doesn't come from the air and issues a statement where they don't have, they haven't made enough research, because it has its stakes in Uganda. So, if we, lastly, that was on the status. If we speak about the efforts that have come up, we've seen our Secretary General doing one of the greatest jobs. Our SG, the Lewis Lubongoya, going to now and then, morning and evening, trying to rescue those who are in the prisons and trying to ask for those who are not accounted for. Recent, I think last week they were in court and they were asking, but the court, for sure, the judicial system of Uganda is also a laughing stock, because the court just went ahead to just say that, how do they call it? They just they prolonged the process. They didn't, because the parents were there in the court. They were grieving for their lost children, their lost husbands. They don't know where they are, but the government said it has them. And in the morning it said it doesn't have them. And the court just didn't give it to hear about it. But it just, said, we will look into this matter another day. Prolonging the process, well knowing that we are going into the election fever, which is already happening in Uganda, with the financial constraints, with the financial constraints, with the abductions, with a lot of attack on the National Unity Platform and the opposition parties in Uganda. We've also seen the leader of our leader of opposition going on the floor of Parliament. Mr. Senyonyi has been on the floor of Parliament asking for the accountability of these missing people. And lastly, I'm very happy of the people like the JB Mwonges and Mr. Chitunzi, our chairman, and other bloggers of the National Unity Platform, because immediately they receive the news of a person who has been abducted, they come online, they demand for them. They make it go viral. They make the world to know that such and such a name of this person is missing. And at least this can create a lot of pressure and a lot of tension for these people to bring out these people. And lastly, I thank you very much, Comrade Joe, for the opportunity you give to highlight and put a stone on the betterment of my country and the betterment of Uganda. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Mugisha. Yes, the question of abductees remains problematic because the statistics are very hard to come by. First of all, the manner in which people are arrested, there is absolutely no accountability, so there are no records. So yes, we talk of the abducted 18, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. Many more people have been disappeared, forcefully disappeared, as it's technically put. And of course, the activity has not stopped. It goes on. So it is a concern, and it is something that we want to bring to the attention of the so-called development partners. This is a serious issue. It is ongoing. They must speak out, and they must speak truth to the dictator. Yes, our party, party as well as other civil society organizations have been trying very hard to secure the rights of these people, but we know the so-called military courts, they're just kangaroo courts. So justice, there is an absolute miscarriage of justice. Justice cannot be found. People have been in detention for 3, coming to 4 years, and they've not been tried. They've not been brought before the legitimate and lawful courts. So this is an issue. This is a problem that must be addressed, and we really think that the development partners must link. There must be a linkage between human rights violations and any aid or any funding that is being given to Museveni. There must be that linkage. It is very, very important, ladies and gentlemen. We are drawing to a close, and at this juncture, we would like to invite people to call in and to give us their views, what they think. We really want to engage the community. We would appreciate if you can call in. The number once again is +46 793 102278. I repeat the number, +46 793 102278. If you're not able to do that, you can write in one of the in the chat rooms. But we would like to interface with the public. If we do not hear, then we shall. If we do not get in calls, then we shall just summarize. Shall make. Robert, are you able to? I can't read it.
No, I was trying to try something just in case someone can pick it up online, but yeah,
so
it is.
We probably, yes. If the viewers out there, if you have questions, if you're not able to pull them to us now, you can put them in the chat room. Follow us on our Twitter handle, on our Facebook. We have an EU. Shall probably read them to you. But anyway, we have our handles out there. Follow us, and if you have questions, please feel free to put them to us, either to the EU leader, that is Mr. Robert Kitunzi, or to your respective chapters. You can contact your leaders. The idea is that we are hard. We should not just be grumbling silently. No, we have to come out, be vocal, be present, be present in the social media, make a mark there, make our voices heard. That is the idea. Speak truth to the powers that be. Speak truth to your neighborhoods, to your communities, so that the people know what is happening in Uganda, and know that it is their money that is funding our oppression and our suffering, our misery, our killings, our tortures. That is very, very important. There is a direct linkage. So this is the message we really want to put out there. But today, we really want, once again, to call for the release of our comrades, for the release of the Kabaka, for the release of MASABA, for the release of HUSSEIN. Over to you, Comrade Robert. Your hand was raised.
I think there's something we wanted to address about the government sanctions. I mean, since we don't have any cause, can we address that, government sanctions and the initiative from the diaspora?
Please go ahead and address that, Comrade.
No, I think it probably, a lot of Ugandans have not missed out this. There was recently when Gadia, who is the human rights leader.
Uganda Human Rights Commissioner.
Yeah, when she came out to highlight that they were not invited to the upcoming human rights convention in the Switzerland. Those are the outcomes of being in a dictatorial regime. And how did this come about? I think it was last year. To be specific, it was on the 4th of August last year. The Uganda government decided not to renew the agreement with the human rights organization, and I think I don't know what led them to do that, but it seems that it's biting them back, because at the time when all countries who are affiliated to the United Nations human rights are planning to convene in Switzerland to talk about abuse of human rights, they're wondering how they can get in. So unfortunately, they can't get in because they have ceased to have any kind of links with the United Nations human rights. That again is really biting them. Unfortunately, Wangadia can't go to Switzerland for this upcoming United Nations Human Rights Convention, which is coming up, which again is really motivates us to do what we have to do to push for continued developmental or structural sanctions to the government. So ultimately, it can be weakened to enforce any kind of governance or developmental issues, because if they can't run the government, obviously, ultimately they're going to feel the heat, and ultimately it will end up collapsing. So we should, as much as possible, we in the diaspora, the US has done very good on that point. We are trying to pick up. We're doing it, playing catch up. The UK has done that. They pushed, the US pushed for the AGOA, which was a very big cash cow for the government, and well, actually not the government, but by a small section of those in Uganda, especially General Museveni and his cohorts. So what we should pushing for is to get such kind of structural sanctions enforced by the EU, because whatever they are doing is really paralyzing our initiatives to liberate ourselves. So why do I empower all our chapters in the EU? Let's get a lot of meetings with the foreign affairs or internal affairs. Let's try to make a case on the injustices which are going on. And I think with time, we may, or we should, and we will succeed in trying to depose of the dictator. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say on that. Now, over to you, Joe.
Thank you, comrade. A very good point. And let me just add, really, the EU has become very, very aggressive, and they're in I mean, they've gone into high drive, and we don't know what their agenda is. And this is actually stifling our efforts to remove the dictator. If I mean, we address this specifically to Jan Sadek, who is the EU delegate, the EU delegate in Uganda. He has stepped up, and this is not helping our cause. Jan Sadek, whatever you do is merely whitewashing and legitimizing the dictatorship. Your close association with Museveni and his cohorts is condemned. What you're doing is really, I think, putting us, putting us some steps backwards, in terms of the progress that we had made. So we call upon the EU to really, I think, to observe its obligations, its international obligations. It is a signatory of the of international conventions, including the Human Rights Declarations on Human Rights, including the International Protocol on international conventions on political and civil treaties, which plus the UN guidelines on trade and human rights guidelines. So this is very, very important. As EU, you are supposed to do a human rights audit before you collaborate with Uganda. And clearly, if you did that audit, Uganda would not qualify to be your development partner. So we call upon you to review your international obligations and do the right thing. Museveni should be ditched, should not be supported, because your support merely emboldens him to go on with the abductions, because no one is telling him off. So we really call upon the EU to do the right thing. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I'll call upon you to give your closing remarks, and then we close. So, Comrade Isha, may I start with you, please? Give us your closing remarks. Thank you.
Yeah, I thank you very much, Comrade Joe, and the listeners and the people who are streaming live on this broadcast. First of all, we thank you for always giving in time to listen to issues that are so on issues which are basically on issues to develop our country and to bring back our country back to life. Yes, the wait may be so long, the wait may be so hard, the price may be so much, but the struggle still continues. We still have a long way to go. We still need to be strong. We still need to have you on board by anything that you can do, by listening in and by subscribing on our Facebook, on our Twitter handle, which is EU. We have our Twitter handle of the EU official. You can go there and subscribe. And soon we shall be unleashing our website whereby you will be going on to get more information, and all these live broadcasts, they will be kept somewhere there where you can go in and listen in and then give us your feedback, because we as the leaders, it's our mandate to listen to what you tell us so that we can do the needful. The struggle continues. Yes, the election fever is soon. Uganda doesn't have the chief inspector of police. Uganda doesn't have the governor bank of Uganda. Uganda doesn't have any functional organ, as you can say that this is a country that is functional. But Aluta continua, we are still on our feet and we are still strong. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade. Comrade Robert Kitunzi, please give us your closing remarks. Thank you.
Yes, I think my closing remarks will be threefold. One, to emphasize our concerns about the whereabouts of Kabaka. Two, the missing comrades from way back in 2021 general elections. And three, our continuity strategies to create awareness across the diaspora. I'll start off, we need to push for the recent abductions. MASABA We're going to be doing a very massive EU demonstration at least end of this month, because we need to do some preparations, asking for permission to do that. I think we're going to do something really very remarkable. HUSSEIN Mumbai, we need to do that. I mean, if we have to be honest, I think we need to broaden our strategies, because when you think of these two individuals, I mean, if we have to, and I don't want to push for the tribal sentiment, but if we have to go there, I think we need to be more proactive and trying to live within the challenges we're facing. I would probably push for the brothers and sisters from Eastern Uganda, especially Mbali, to push for this, because he's their son. He's a Ugandan, he's a Mugisha to start with, but it represents the clout of the Bagisu. So if this is my personal appeal, yeah. Myself, I really have some ties to the Bugisu, because we have some of our sons are from there. So I feel that we could probably use that strategy for the region to push for the release of their son. Moving forward to HUSSEIN, I would definitely empower the Basoga to push for the release. Yeah. So we need to really need to devise new ways of how to dislodge and put pressure, probably regional wise, because we don't want to put the pressure to the central region. If we have to say Buganda, right? Buganda being the central heart of the country, and its inhabitants will be pushing for change. I would probably push for these regions to rally behind their lost son, to ask and demand our son. Because if MASABA is taken, who is next in Bugisu? Who's MUMBYE is taken, who is next in Busoga? If we don't show local, regional solidarity to our sons and sisters, then we're doomed to perish. So personally, I would push for that kind of strategy. I don't know who buys it, but that's my personal way of how to push back locally within the boundaries of our country. So the other thing is to do with the internationalization of the struggle. We're going to be doing different demonstrations. We've been very slow. I'm barely half a year on this position to try to create awareness. I'm going to try to see, and those who are listening in from the Europe, try to support your local chapters. Let's drive a big campaign, especially when it comes to the next upcoming demonstration, which we are yet to announce to you guys. Let's make General Museveni famous. Let's paint all the cities in Europe, Museveni and the abductees in the coming elections. We're going to be printing a lot of flyers. We're going to be printing a lot of posters. Let's try to make this step up the demand for comrades who have been abducted and those who are still incarcerated in military courts. Olivier Lutaya, we need to mention him. We need to mention Don Bosco Chibarama, and then the other gentleman, John Damolira, these are the torch of those who were targeted leading up to the elections. We need to demand for not only their release or their whereabouts, but also to be revealed to the Ugandan public. And lastly, let's go to the Kabaka. As a Uganda, of course, I would definitely need to know where my king, my Kabaka is. So for those who are intimidating and sending us posts of the whereabouts of Kabaka, move from the inbox. Yeah. Why do you keep on posting? You know, I've just seen someone posting in the group I'm in that the Kabaka is seen in some warehouse, is in some mall. You know, why instead of posting that to our, you know, like, oh, Kabaka Jalia Alamula. No, let's come out to the public and say, yeah, he's the Kabaka. So don't stop sending small messages here and there that the Kabaka Alamula is seen and posting pictures in his whereabouts. We don't know where that is. Is he in Uganda? Is he, you know? Stop this petty and trivial things you're posting. And then the other thing is someone mentioned in one of the groups I'm in as a Chima clan, someone, and I put it out to you guys, someone went as far as saying that how come you claim to advocate for the whereabouts of the Kabaka, yet you don't come to your clan's gatherings? How do they, I mean, how do you put these, or how do you, how do you put these two together? I mean, I don't know what kind of message it was. Okay, so I shouldn't be advocating for the Kabaka because I've not been seen in the Nchima gatherings, or I've not been seen following the Mamba or the Lugaves gathering. I shouldn't be asking. Come on, let's be mature. So those are really, really, really the comments which actually legitimize our demand for the Kabaka, because some of you people are trying to make it so trivial that no, come to the culture gatherings and then you'll be empowered to speak about the Kabaka. No, that's not going to happen. So stop those small trivial posts in our inboxes on the WhatsApp media, on anywhere. We want everything you're communicating in these small groups to come out to the public. So don't intimidate people. We have Uganda, Febana Balero, and we're supposed to defend the plight of the kingdom of Uganda. So once again, we appeal to the Katikiro, come out, probably try to liaise with those people who claim know the movement of Kabaka, that it was in Germany and then it went in England, and then come up with a very consolidated message to the Ugandan public. That is my appeal to you. Once again, as a disclaimer, we're talking as individuals, as the sons of Uganda and the subjects of the Kabaka of Uganda. This has nothing to do with our affiliation with the party which is really fronting and moving for change. That is the NOP, which we affiliate to. Thanks, Joe, for today, and thanks for those who are listening to us, who have been listening to us. Every Saturday or Sunday, we'll be coming up with this kind of a message of trying to create awareness and finding out where our brothers and sisters are and the release for their safety. Thanks. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you very much, Comrade, for those closing remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our program. The issue of human rights violations remains very, very fundamental and remains very concerning for Ugandans, but also it should be concerning for the for development partners. The increase in the abductions and the forced disappearances and the unlawful detentions is a serious matter that should be taken seriously. And we would like the EU to take this matter very seriously, because as far as we are concerned, Ugandan lives matter, African lives matter as much as the lives of other, other countries on the planet, whether Ukraine or Gaza or where. So it is very, very important. And when we make we address these issues, we want to be taken seriously. So the notion that the EU has to continue to support the regime in Kampala is completely abhorrent, is completely unacceptable. The EU must go by its international conventions that it has signed that prescribe the prioritization of human rights over profits, over business. And we call upon the EU, therefore, to cease and desist from collaborating with Museveni and supporting Museveni. So we shall continue to engage, to speak to the EU institutions, EU Parliament, EU Commission, EU Council, citizens of the EU, and other non-governmental organizations. We shall not relent. This is our mission. This is our work. And we call upon all Ugandans in the diaspora, not just Ugandans, but also friends of Uganda, to join us in sending this message, in articulating these issues. So we thank you for today's second episode that touched on the recent abductions. And in this regard, we call upon the government to immediately release, and without any preconditions, His Royal Highness, the Kabaka of Uganda, His Royal Highness, Ronald Muwenda Mutebi. We call upon the release of Comrade Faustin MASABA. We call for the release of Comrade Hussein Ambuya. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. We look forward to hosting you again. Have a nice weekend. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. We sign out. Thank you. Oops.